Filecoin DeFi Day, where we're going to talk about all sorts of different things going on in the DeFi world of Filecoin, whether it's a staking solution, a new lending solution that a team is building. We're also going to talk about some new tech that's coming out that different DeFi teams can utilize. So a lot of exciting stuff. I know that we're getting started a little bit after time here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to try to cut some things at the beginning and the end here, but we want to make sure that all the teams that have joined us here today have enough time to get through their presentations. And at the end of the day today, what we're going to do is, or at the beginning of the afternoon, we're going to give like 30 minutes for teams to kind of set up around the room, and people can go and talk to them, and you can learn how to potentially stake your FIL, and maybe you can do your first staking today. Yes. Uh-oh. Should I point it here? Oh, there we go. It worked.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So just a reminder for the entire session today, please do your own research. Nothing is investment advice. We always have to say this because this is a more sensitive topic, but these are just general presentations.
We're here for the alpha, Ashwanth.
Then you shouldn't be listening to me. You should listen to all the teams. Okay. So for a lot of you are familiar with this, but the Filecoin master plan has 3 steps. One is create the world's largest decentralized storage network, distributed storage network. Number 2 is to bring data to that network, and then number 3 is to add compute and other services on top of that data. And so when we think about all these things, we want to figure out how do we make storage providers grow, because storage providers are the ones who can help enact all 3 steps of that master plan. So storage providers can grow by buying more hardware. They can add more servers and add capacity. They can grow by onboarding more data, so bringing more data to the network, onboarding more clients, or they could onboard, or they could improve their technical capacities. Thank you, Lukas, for advancing my slides. So you can improve your efficiency in a technical sense, like improving your sealing power or anything like that. But regardless, everything that you need to do these 3 things comes through using Filecoin, the token, as collateral. Thank you. So what do we mean by this? Well, if you want to onboard more data to the network or onboard more capacity to the network, you need to be pledging more Filecoin to the network. And so the question is, how do you get more Filecoin to storage providers? And you can do that in a variety of different ways, but DeFi has emerged as a great opportunity to do so. So the Filecoin virtual machine launched in March of this year, as many of you know, and essentially enabled user programmability and smart contracts on top of your layer 1 Filecoin blockchain, and that included solutions to help Filecoin token holders connect with storage providers, and that is Filecoin DeFi. So get ready, Lukas. You're going to have to start clicking through a lot here. What is staking or leasing on Filecoin? What's the high-level overview here? Well, importantly, it's very different from how staking works in other ecosystems, because we are not necessarily a proof-of-stake protocol. We're a proof-of-space-time protocol. So what you'll see on this page here is you have a bunch of major stakeholder groups here. You've got token holders who essentially deposit Filecoin to a staking pool or a staking service. At the same time, that staking pool or staking service is onboarding a vetted list of storage providers, and you can see that in the orange box there. So they're saying, based on these on-chain analytics, based on these factors, we're going to onboard this set of storage providers that then we will subsequently loan out the Filecoin or lease out the Filecoin that is in that pool to those SPs. Now, the SPs now have lots of FIL that they can use to pledge to the Filecoin protocol. So when we say pledge to the Filecoin protocol, that means they're onboarding capacity or they're onboarding data. And they have to do this for anywhere from 180 to 540 days. Now, that's another big key difference in the Filecoin ecosystem, because this is the duration of a deal term for Filecoin storage providers. So at the end of that deal, however long that is, the Filecoin protocol returns that pledge collateral back to the storage provider, along with any rewards that were earned on that deal. The storage provider keeps some of the rewards for themselves. They take back that initial principal and send it back to the staking pool, along with some portion of the rewards, and then those are distributed back to the Filecoin token holders. And additionally, some of those rewards can also be saved in exit reserves, treasury pools, other opportunities like that. So that's how this works at a very high level. Now, I will say that a lot of the teams that are here do this in slightly different ways. There are lots of different variations on this. So this is a pretty generalized model, but hopefully that helps orient you as to how Filecoin staking is different from staking in other ecosystems. And that's oftentimes why we call it leasing, because it honestly is a different mechanism than proof-of-stake protocols. Cool. A couple of quick highlights. You may have seen the slide in some of the other events this week, but Filecoin DeFi has been taking off in the last 6 or 7 months. Filecoin Virtual Machine launched in March, so essentially we had 0 TVL. At some point this week, we had 160 million in total value locked, and so that is an insane number for a protocol that has only had DeFi enabled for 6 to 7 months, and that's because we've had over 3,000 unique wallets that are contributing to staking on Filecoin. There are 11 different teams, so we have 4 or 5 of them represented here today, but there are 11 around the world who are helping do this. And SPs are borrowing in large numbers. 14 million Filecoin has been borrowed by storage providers, roughly 300 SP or 500 SPIDs. And I think a really interesting stat is when you think about all of the Filecoin that has been pledged since March of this year, since FEM was launched, 40% of that has come from DeFi solutions, which is lots of adoption from storage providers very quickly and very early on. If I had to predict, I think this number would reach 50 before the end of the quarter. I think that in the next year or so, we could see a majority of Filecoin that's being pledged to the network come from DeFi solutions. So this is an increasingly important avenue in the Filecoin world. Cool. So if you want to stay up to date on the latest from Filecoin's DeFi solutions, on the left-hand side there, you've got a qualitative overview of all the different tools and services, and on the right-hand side, you can get a quantitative overview. So if you ever have any questions about resources, you can go there. Great. And I think there's a similar slide. In addition to just Filecoin staking services, which we are focusing on today, there's a whole other world of different DeFi services and platforms that you need in order to build a robust DeFi ecosystem. And so 2 that I'll call out are SushiSwap and Uniswap. Both are decentralized exchanges that have recently either launched or will be launching on Filecoin in the next few weeks. This is important, right, because it provides utility or adds utility to DeFi services that exist. It provides a more robust ecosystem. So those are very exciting. I think we have the next big move is to try to get a stablecoin. You want to make sure that you have lend borrows online as well, and so lots of exciting things coming on the radar. A big thank you to today's sponsors, Secured Finance, Web3 Mine, and Collective DAO, as well as Stake FIL and HashMix. Without you guys, none of this would have been possible in terms of DeFi adoption taking off at all. We also wouldn't have been able to have this event. So big round of applause for our sponsors today. Cool. So with that, we have a packed agenda for you today. We're going to start off with a quick talk from Longfei on IPC and Filecoin DeFi, talking about some of the great innovations that are coming your way. So if you're a DeFi team, think about building, this is great. And then we're going to start moving into some of our deep dives. I actually think we switched the order with Zokyo and Web3 Mine, so we'll go with Zokyo second. We have Hartej here, very exciting. And then we're going to see if we can get Sylvan to dial in from Shanghai at the end here and talk about PFIL from Starboard. And then at the end, if we have time, we're going to do a networking session where the teams will kind of set up in different corners of the room and people can learn about their different solutions and chat with them. And again, potentially stake your first Filecoin. So cool. All right, here we go. So let's kick it off with Longfei. Oh yeah, and again, reminder, please check in, scan the QR code. It would be great to know that you were here, and it would make me very happy to know that you were here. So sign in when you can. There are QR codes around the room. All right, so without further ado, we will kick it to Longfei, who's going to give us a demo on IPC subnets.
Thank you for giving a great intro of the DeFi. I think that's set up a stage for me to come to talk with the IPC. I know there's a lot of a team here building DeFi, and then maybe a lot of users are using DeFi, especially if you have tried the DeFi on Filecoin. I know you have some opinions on how it can be improved for the user experience. The reason that we're here trying to represent IPC to the team is we want to get all the DeFi builders and to try and then see if IPC will be a good solution to fix some of the issues, and if from the user's perspective, if this will offer a better user experience if some of the application migrate on the IPC subnet. But first, you might wonder what is IPC and then why we have to represent here. And like I mentioned earlier, for the DeFi builders and for the DeFi users, you might run into issues on the Filecoin. Like the very, very obvious one is if you send a transaction on Filecoin, it takes a few minutes to confirm on the blockchain. And if you want to be 100% secure, it will take hours because the finality on Filecoin is a little bit long considering the consensus and the proof of stake, proof of space-time mechanism. It will take longer time to be actually say this transaction is finalized on blockchain. So the block time was 30 seconds and the finality was 900 epoch, if I remember correctly. We're giving the DeFi project a lot of trouble to onboard a user. Also giving the user a lot of trouble to be able to use a DeFi smoothly, or by not waiting for such long time to confirm. And at a certain time, we work with Binance or work with Coinbase. There's an issue that user come to us and complain, how is it possible I have to wait another day to get my token transferred to the Binance wallet? So that's the issue that we're hearing a lot from the DeFi project. And apart from DeFi project, we also have a lot of project building on Filecoin. Some of the project, they using the Filecoin storage, and some of the project, they just need to access the storage, like what LilyPad is doing, what is Fluence is doing, is bringing the computation on the Filecoin and IPFS. At the same time, they also want to have a more customized network that they will be able to use a different consensus mechanism and then be able to customize the token economy and then be able to use a different token to pay gas other than just paying, if they want to bring a gas fee, a process fee lower for the user, all those things are not possible on Filecoin. But at the same time, they also need the storage on Filecoin, right? They cannot just go to other blockchain and then we'll lose the connection between the storage they want to access on Filecoin. So to be able to fix all this issue, that we need to have a solution that be able to make Filecoin more scalable and also providing efficiency and a more customized feature for our partners, regardless it's a DeFi or it's a computer network. So, and at the same time, we should also be able to access the storage features on Filecoin. I think that's the most important things on Filecoin ecosystem because data and then storage is essential for our network. And that's why we bring the IPC. What is IPC? I will go a little bit deeper, but to be able to understand it easier is it bring a more modularized and customized blockchain solutions on Filecoin that you can easily bring up a subnet based on your need, based on your customization. And so you can provide to your customer with high efficiency and more feature, less gas fee, less transaction fee, and also be able to get access to the Filecoin storage network. At the same time, share the security coming from the root net, which is Filecoin. How? I think I talked too fast, so it's already covered in these slides. I might just not skip it. But this diagram will give you a good idea of how the IPC subnet will work and how it can build the subnet based on the root net and then doing hierarchy horizontally scale on the Filecoin. We'll take, for example, taking a game as an example, and also consider a DeFi as an example, because DeFi needs to provide storage provider storage provider with the lending borrowing solution, it needs to verify the storage provider's data and then storage deal status. So it needs to access the Filecoin storage deal. At the same time, it doesn't care about how the storage is processed. And then it doesn't want to mix the transaction with the storing the data and providing the proof. So we can move like some of the gaming feature or DeFi feature into a subnet. In this subnet, you just need to process your transaction for your DeFi. At the same time, if you need to verify the storage data, you can send the request to the mainnet to be able to get the data, the status, the update for your storage on the mainnet. At the same time, considering different policies trained on different countries, it's also possible you can build a originally solution or not just DeFi or gaming that just providing that service on subnet as well. And it's truly, from the design of the IPC, it's truly modularized. So I think by modularized, you probably understand that is you can configure different module, the consensus module, the economic module, and the runtime environment module. So because of the FVM is designed as fully Watson-based module, so we can be more compatible with a lot of runtime environment. Now it's EVM, and in the future we want to extend to support more runtime environment. So Filecoin and the IPC subnet can bridge to more ecosystem to be able to provide that hierarchy scalability on Filecoin and on the other blockchain. At the same time, bring the Filecoin storage to the other ecosystem through this subnet and IPC infrastructure. At that time, you don't need to worry about like using bridge and getting other bridge to support other solution, because naturally all the subnet are connected, sharing the security, sharing the information flow from the rootnet to parents, from rootnet to subnet, or between the subnet. So that's will come in the future, and hopefully all the configuration will become a lot easier for the project want to build a subnet, just be able to config with a couple click, and it will bring up a subnet with your preference configuration on the consensus, on the gas, on the runtime environment. So this is the future, and I'm just giving you a very brief intro. If you want to know more about how it works and the architecture, tomorrow will be the great time, because today my goal is to come here to show all the DeFi team building on Filecoin that we are building a solution, and you'll be able to bring more efficiency and bring more scalability to Filecoin to provide a solution for you guys. So we hope you guys can come here and then try. And at this stage, IPC is still working very hard. Like the engineering team was working until like 1 midnight last night. So we were still in the stage of delivering a testnet for you guys to try. So we hope that if you're interested, try our tutorial that we already put on the document. I mean the doc site. Like if you're building DeFi, you just want to deploy a smart contract on the subnet, and you'll be able to do that. But if you are interested in to bring up a subnet and maintain your own network, there's also possible you can just deploy a subnet anchored to calibration or anchored to another layer 2 network. Just feel free to try it, and just bear in mind that we're still working in progress, and we're trying to fix any issues that you guys report. So if you have any issue, and just feel free to post it on the IPC dev channel, and we are working on fixing that. I'm gonna spend some time doing a very quick demo on like how you can use IPC. And actually, I just noticed that this is the first time we're showing the IPC out in public. So let's hope it works well for me. Okay, so I'm gonna use this network called Masa, and it's a subnet anchored to the calibration, which means all the tokens that you use in Masa has to come from calibration. And then we just got this Explorer running, and it's producing block, processing the transaction, and I hope it's stable enough for me to use. So, and then the transaction processing time is like 1 second at this mycelium testnet. So it will be super fast to be able to use it. So if you can see that block producing. So that's the network we're gonna use. And I know you guys familiar with how to connect to the network, right? If you need to connect to the network, especially on the MetaMask, you need to have some of the parameters to be able to connect. For example, what's the chain ID and what's the URL that you can send the request. All this information are provided in the document page. So if you're interested to try, and then in the docs, there's a network session. You can find all the information to connect to the IPC. So the first step that I want to show is how you can get a token from calibration to Mycelia to be able to use. Now, there are two ways we can do it. The first is using the IPC CLI. That's a CLI that you can interact with the IPC subnet. And in the future, that we will provide a full set specifically on the Mycelia, so you can request the token. Those tokens are actually coming from calibration as well. Before that, I think the best option is using the IPC CLI. So first, let's share, because I already have some tokens set up on my wallet. So I want to check my wallet balance. And when I want to check a balance, I need to specify a subnet to check. And now I want to get my token in the calibration. So that's the subnet ID you need to. It's represent for the calibration network. Oh, that's a great moment to share the compatibility for the other chain. Now we only support a EVM compatible chain. So when you create a wallet, when you check a wallet balance, you have to specify it's a EVM compatible wallet. In the future, hopefully there's like Solana compatible and then near compatible. So here's my wallet in the calibration, and I need to send some token down to my Mycelia, the subnet. So I will use the command as IPCLI, and there's a cross message. So if you're not familiar with the command, you can just get in the help channel, and now I just use fund. I will fund to the subnet. The subnet is the target subnet which is Mycelium, and now I have to use this chain ID to represent Mycelium network. And then I can specify an address, which is my MetaMask. Oh, by the way, I already set up my MetaMask to be able to connect to Mycelia, as well as another network that I just bring up, an IP subnet. It's mine, is running. And we can take a look at the configuration very quick. So that's my IPC, and that's Mycelia. So that's all the information we grab from the website and have chain ID and then the URLs. Okay, I'm going to grab that address as the to address, and we're going to send 3 token. And this will send the transaction on the calibration to lock those funds in the smart contract on calibration. And then once that transaction is finalized in the calibration, Mycelia validator will be able to grab that information and release the token in that subnet for you to use. It will take some time because the finality on Filecoin network will take a few minutes. I don't want you guys to wait too long, so I'll just use some token that I already got before from Mycelia to demo this. And then this is the process of sending a token from a parent's net down to the child subnet. And you can also release your token back to the wallet and the parent's net if you don't want to use any service in it as well. And this process can go along from different network.
That's a question.
Sure.
Why is it still dependent on Filecoin's finality time?
Because all the transaction, you have to be finalized on the parent chain to be able to confirm, right? That's a certain level of security.
You're using Filecoin as a parent?
Yeah, yeah.
If you weren't, then it would just be the parent of
Yeah.
each of those.
Right. If we build on Ethereum, it will rely on the finality on Ethereum for that one level of security. And now we go back and then try a smart contract, right? Like you have a token on your subnet, and let's deploy a smart contract and then see how it works. Because the Mycelia was FVM, everything is EVM compatible, so you can use any tools from Ethereum ecosystem, Remix, Hartej, and MetaMask. I just showed the configuration on MetaMask, so it's working. And I'll just go down the remix. I think everything has to start with the simple ERC token contract. So I'm just going to create a space and use the ERC20 contract template from OpenZeppelin. And they will give you a very basic ERC20. I'm just going to say it's a first testing token. It's DeFi. I'm just call it DeFi IPC. And then having the basic ownable, mintable function. So once this is the very basic minimal configuration on the token. And once it's compiled, we can deploy on Mycelia. We're going to use MetaMask to sign the transaction. And because this is the ownable contract, so I have to set an owner of that token so you'll be able to mint any token on that. I'm just going to use my wallet address. Just confirm the transaction, and it will be super quick on the Mycelia other than waiting for minutes on the calibration, and it's already done. So once it's ready, and let's see if I can mint some token. I'm going to mint a token to my address and just lay 100 because the decimal, so I have to use 135. Sorry, it's just a lot of number to typing. And then it's also confirm the transaction. If you like a few seconds, you'll be able to get it. Okay, so now my token is minted, and I can look up at my wallet balance. And something is not right here. Hopefully it's okay. Another way. Let's import this token here and then see if we show up. Sorry. I'm using this token address. Okay, so you'll be able to grab the token information from Mycelia. Yeah, I think it's just a little bit delay on the remix, but my token that I minted is ready for you to use on the Mycelia. So this is the first of your token on the Mycelia. It looks quite simple, but I'll just demo you guys. That's IPC, basic function, is ready for you guys to try, deploying a subnet, and then build a smart contract. I mean, ERC20 is a very basic contract, but whatever feature you build on Ethereum, it's able to build on IPC subnet. So go test it out and come to the IPC events tomorrow if you want to learn more. And hopefully we'll see you guys tomorrow. And if you have any questions, just come to talk to us. Any issues you're running into, any features you want into IPC, because it's modularized, customizable. In the future, that will be always all become possible for you guys to use. All right, thank you.
Like the model suggests that there's multiple layers of defense or slices of cheese, and each one has a hole or a vulnerability. And the truth is that in Web3, we have about 10 times as many holes and as many vectors for potential trouble. So it's kind of shocking, at least from my personal security perspective, that our industry is not familiar with some of these fundamental concepts. Also because we've had around 6.7, almost now as of like yesterday, $7 billion worth of crypto stolen in just the last 2 years. And speaking specifically to the Filecoin ecosystem, we really want to see these newer ecosystems kind of follow the right path, and that path includes respecting security along every step of your development cycle. During the Web 2 era, Mark Zuckerberg became quite famous for telling everyone to build things fast and break them, and we'll worry about security later. But in our industry, we actually need to think about security at every single step of your development cycle, and that's super crucial. So in crypto, we can easily classify crypto hacks based on the layer of the stack that was exploited and the method that was used. In the crypto application system, ecosystem, we've got interoperable protocols that are powered by smart contracts that rely on the underlying blockchain plus the internet. And each layer of the stack has its own unique vulnerabilities. As you can see here, what's definitely been the most common, and I'm sure many of you have heard, which is the most common vulnerabilities in our space that have been consecutively exploited is using flash loans to exploit logic flaws using borrowed funds. Logic flaws are typically really difficult for automated tooling to find, which has been one of the fundamental reasons companies engage with 2 or 3 third-party security auditors. So even after writing your own internal tooling, which I encourage all teams to do, so you should write your own internal tooling, you should do your own internal security audits, and then you should engage with 2 or 3 third-party auditors. And why you're engaging with them is because you're engaging with 3 to 6 individual manual auditors who are going to try to break everything apart and make sure that your smart contract is even doing what it's supposed to do. And logic flaws tend to be sometimes as basic as people making math mistakes to much larger things like flash loan reentrancy attacks, which have been ridiculously common, especially for oracles and bridges in our industry. This is a quick breakdown of the frequency of ecosystem hacks by type. You can see that, around... Sorry, I made some notes and they're not correlated. I put together as much as I can to get you in 15 minutes for this presentation, so bear with me. Yeah, so like ecosystem attacks definitely occur the most often, and they make up for 41% of the sample group. What's next? Come on, there we go. This is the frequency of hacks by category. I think it's important to note that infrastructure is not everything related to smart contracts. It also includes, Web 2 components, off-chain. It includes custody. But the truth is that smart contract security is definitely, 77% of the chunk of what we need to be worrying about when it comes to security. Just more scary numbers of how much money continues to be lost. This needs to be updated because we've had like a ridiculous amount of hacks in the last 14 days. So this went up by another like $40 million. It's sad, actually. So I will quickly get to how we are tackling this problem. So yes, you need to get audits. Yes, multiple third-party audits are important. But after you get an audit, now we've been kind of solving the next tier of the problem, which is proactive threat intelligence. In the Web 2 world, you have companies like CrowdStrike and Splunk that are pretty famous for solving this problem. And we're partially leveraging machine learning to both discover and remediate immediately security threats and vulnerabilities that we find. We do this we run a node on every single protocol that is pretty much out there in our space. And we score every single transaction in the mempool before it even hits the chain. And we write custom rules-based agents to look for security threats and vulnerabilities, and partially leverage machine learning to remediate immediately. I say partially because machine learning, as sexy of a buzzword it is for VCs to get excited about, it leads to far too many false positives. So if I were to use only machine learning, I'd be drowning my clients and customers with false positives, and that's not really helpful. So it's super important to look for business logic flaws, like I mentioned before, token economic flaws. So we write a mix of rules-based agents. Challenges in this, this is going in the wrong direction. One sec.
Hartej, I can move them forward if you want to.
Go for it.
You tell me next.
Next.
Slide and I'll move.
Next. Yeah, so a lot of challenges are in this space, and I actually don't view this challenge of regulation as a challenge. I'm very excited for regulation to evolve in this space. Hong Kong is actually seemingly the most forefront regulator that we've engaged with, where they've already highlighted that companies in the Hong Kong region will not only need 2 or 3 third-party audits, but they also need to show that they're doing proactive threat intelligence, some sort of real-time monitoring. So they've been engaging with any of the companies in the space that are offering this type of a tool. One of the early players that was doing proactive threat intelligence that inspired us to take a stab at this problem was actually Forta Network, backed by Andreessen. We've definitely taken some inspiration there, but we've taken a bit of a different B2B SaaS approach. Next, please. And a lot of the problems, as most of you know, it just comes from the nascency of our space. We don't have standards, we don't have procedures, we don't have PCI compliance level 1, 2, 3, we don't have a HIPAA compliance like they have in healthcare. Believe it or not, but those basic standards are what make every single company launching in finance or healthcare follow the most basic cybersecurity standards that our industry still just does not have. What we built is a malicious activity detection and prevention system. Next, please. We have near zero latency, and you can go next. I already explained kind of how the infrastructure works. Next. We cover almost every blockchain right now. We'll be supporting the Filecoin ecosystem as well. We started off with Ethereum and Polygon. We did some of the Move ecosystem. We run nodes on every single chain, and well, we're very bullish on this ecosystem, so we'll be supporting it. And if you're interested in talking to me after or find me online, I'm here to answer questions about Mamoru and help onboard anybody building in the Filecoin ecosystem. Next, please. Has anybody here, a quick raise of hands, anyone ever heard of SOAR, S-O-A-R? One person. How about the word playbook? Just the word playbook. Yeah? Okay, that's better. So I often joke that the word playbook at like a cybersecurity conference, you'll hear that word just about as much as you hear the word crypto or smart contract at our conferences in Web3. And I'd like to start hearing this word more in our industry, because playbooks are fundamentally, what do you do when something goes wrong, when there is a breach? And when we did a deep dive into our industry, you look at every single DeFi protocol in our space, there's literally only one that we found that has a public SOAR playbook, and that was Yearn Finance. So, congratulations, Yearn Finance. But literally no one else in our entire industry has a public SOAR playbook. And so we've built that functionality into our solution so we can be your SOAR playbook. And what that kind of means is, when you have a security breach, what do you do? What is your playbook? Where are the data logs of the security breach going to? Are you sending it to your SOC 2 compliance provider? Are you sending it to your insurer? There's a chance that the insurance company is going to cover the entire cost of the breach anyway. Are you sending the data logs to your C-level team and your board? Fundamentally, when we talk about smart contracts and deploying them to any bank or any large institution doing stuff in the RWA space today, this is one of the first questions they ask us. They tell us compliance might even matter for us more than the security part. Like, we need to know, what are we doing after there's a breach? And they're openly asking for a Splunk or CrowdStrike-like solution in our space, and so we built it. Next, please. Our solution is real time, it's journaled and compliant, and we definitely have a future-proof approach, because we're creating custom modules for every client. We have asset managers that want to know when to pull funds out of yield farms. We have layer ones that want to know if 80% of the TVL on certain smart contracts have disappeared magically. If so, they'll tell us to flick the kill switch and shut it down automatically. There's an array of different types of custom agents that can be written, and they have the power to either flick a kill switch or move liquidity. The chief security officer of a layer one that we just signed, he wants a report to his email every single morning of any suspicious smart contracts that were created by third parties on his chain every single day. So sky is the limit on the types of agents that we can write, and most of our clients are asking for an array of 15 to 20 custom agents. I look forward to writing custom agents for you guys. Next. Here's some of the use cases for L1s and L2s that I was just mentioning. I didn't realize this slide was next. Automated threat detection, network health, consensus monitoring, suspicious liquidity removal, address activity monitoring, bridge funds monitoring. That's been actually really common. Almost every layer 1 that we're hiring is asking us to monitor bridges, starting with Polygon, to be honest. Next. DeFi use cases are similar. Smart contract vulnerabilities, liquidity issues, and regulatory compliance, which I'm actually praying for more of. Next. Oracles, same thing. Next. Exchanges, wallet security, portfolio security. What I'll mention here is we do have on our roadmap a form of a B2C solution that will come out on the marketplaces of a lot of wallets, as well as Forda Network actually has launched a marketplace that we're going to be launching a more B2C solution for people to be able to write some of their own rules-based engines and leverage Mamoru's solution. I'll just call it there. If anyone has any questions, please let me know. I'm sorry if I went over time. Our URL is mamoru.ai. Zokyo.io is our parent company. We've been building Mamoru bootstrapped with our own audit revenue, and we have our first customers, and we may be raising a round of capital at some point. So if any of that is relevant to any of you, please reach out to me. I'm pretty easy to find on Twitter. I'm just my first name, Hartej, Hartej, and I'll be sticking around for a bit to answer questions. Thanks so much for all your time and attention. You want me to stay here to answer questions? You want me to leave?
Yeah. Does anybody have questions for Hartej?
Question.
Yeah, go for it.
I mean, I'm quite shocked, as you are, the hundreds of millions that the industry keeps using to these cracks.
Yeah.
So curious, like, what have you observed? The new, people and new teams who are joining the industry, releasing new products.
Yeah.
Are they making the same mistakes over and over again, or is it that they are gradually using better processes, better compliance, but the bad actors are always a few steps ahead of them?
It's two things. So I would say on the crypto native side, we're seeing a lot of the same mistakes made, but I think that there's become a more standard where they're like, oh, well, I have to get an audit because that's become normal. So let me get at least one brand name audit, if not two. But then they're not thinking about penetration testing. They still don't have a chief security officer. They still don't have anyone at the early stages to even think about security. And I think we also have to blame somewhat the early stage VCs for not mandating these things at an early stage. And some of them are just more interested in the fact that you have a token, it's going to pump, and we're going to dump. And it's a bit of an issue. Now, on the other side, we're seeing so much maturity with RWA, real-world assets, Chainlink launch CCIP. There's so many institutions popping up, and I would say amongst all the institutions, conversations about security are at the forefront. They're like, hey, we've been doing testing payments on a smart contract to pay our clients on a stablecoin in the labs of our bulge bracket bank. But before we go live, we're looking for a Splunk-like solution who's going to help us stay in SOC 2 compliance, because if there's a breach, we're out of SOC 2. And these solutions don't exist in our industry today. And I would say that the institutions are taking security very seriously because they always have. And it's bringing a really good wave into our space. And I think the newer companies that are catering to the institutions are going above and beyond to go through SOC 2 now. So we do help companies go through SOC 2 compliance. And it's been so impressive to see the uptick in brand new early stage crypto companies asking to be SOC 2 in compliance of SOC 2. It's a great new wave. So I can't help but be optimistic, but I think it's moving extremely slow because the regulation whip hasn't been cracked. And sadly, in crypto native world, people don't respect security until they have a breach. Wormhole got hacked and they redid it. Gnome had got hacked and they hired security people. And it's like this is hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. And then, we just can't have this, I'm going to burn my hand on the stove and then learn my lesson approach. But it's like, how many times are we going to burn our hands on the stove? And yeah, if we can solve this problem, the institutions will come faster. The industry will mature faster. Mass adoption will come faster. I think security is a key pillar. I think Companies that are mature have been using Fireblocks or Copper or Coinbase for custody and BitGo, and then they're using Chainalysis or Elliptic in the middle for figuring out who did something wrong. And this is the third pillar. It's like proactive threat monitoring. And I think the companies like us that are tackling that, people will be using 2 or 3 of them at the same time for redundancy. It'll be the third pillar now. Like, who's ongoing monitoring your smart contracts in real time, proactively, ideally. You're welcome, thanks. Any other questions? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Jacob. I do
Hi, Jacob.
in government affairs for the Filecoin Foundation.
Awesome.
This kind of conversation isn't that relevant to everyone else, but I just want to fly Kenji out with you later about the regulatory stuff. I think it's a really important point.
I have a red turban. Find me. It's so easy to find me. Anyone else? All right, that's it.
So yeah, so today we are going to talk about staking. In general, like Ashwanth pointed out that like in Filecoin we have more like leasing, lending, and so on. We really specifically want to talk about staking because staking is hard, but it is possible on Filecoin. And I just want to go through to what it actually takes to stake. Quickly, some background. FIL mines are before GNPL, probably 2020. We were competing in the space race. We were 20th, around 20th in Europe. And it took basically me just assembling some hardware. And this is a photo that the co-founder back in the days made. Then we built a bunch of tooling for the ecosystem, and we launched in 2022. And that was pre-Filecoin FEM. Basically, it was just a multi-sig based solution. And that's when we realized that like actually doing staking requires much more than just passing around liquidity. And I'm going to go a bit deeper into how we actually tackle this.
Cool. I just want to kind of remind everyone what it takes to be an SP, right? And as an SP, you buy hardware, so you're engaging in whatever procurement processes to buy a large amount of drives. You then have to connect those drives and operate them just like to the electricity grid, all of that, like energy prices, figuring out that part. You then connect that hardware to the Filecoin network. That's you need to seal all that capacity. You then need to fill up all of the capacity. So you need to find storage clients around the world that want to buy Filecoin storage, even though that's a super new product. And then you need to manage the volatility of mostly crypto revenues against a cost base that's larger denominated in fiat. Right, so those are very complex things to ask one entity to do. Each one of those things is a highly complex and specialized thing. Web3 Mine, and you saw the photo of Vuk there, spent the last 4 years basically trying to optimize every little piece of that process. Right, so from buying hardware to connecting it, cooling it, crazy stuff. Web3 Man has been able to basically do all of these steps extremely efficiently, right? And the idea of Web3 Mine is really just bringing these kinds of learnings to everyone, right? So you can basically participate in being one of the most profitably and most efficient SPs on the Filecoin network. And the analogy I kind of want to put out here is think of when cars were first manufactured, people would literally be in a workshop and do all these things at once. They go out, buy screws, they put the tires on, everything, and then they'll sell the car. And now we have Gigafactory, right? That's the Gigafactory from Tesla, hyper efficient, special purpose built, does exactly what it needs to do, and every little thing of it is hyper efficient. That's how you can think of Web3 Mine and what the operators or the hardware owners that are using the Web3 Mine protocol to power their operations. What that really means, if you think about it from a profitability perspective, is while kind of your average SP is still mostly relying on block rewards on the revenue side and hasn't really been able to drive down costs substantially over the past few years, just because they were so overwhelmed with dealing with that complexity. What the Web3 Mine SPs can do is they also rely on block rewards, but they are also able to tap into other revenue sources, right? So you have storage deals that are making real money. And because of all these optimizations, we've been able to drive down the cost of SPs and the risk, right? And so if you just put these two things together, like revenue, you're unlocking new revenue potential and you're driving cost, what happens obviously to your profitability is it goes up, and all of that profitability or a lot of that can be passed on to stakers. And when I say cost, I really mean like if you walk down from the top of a P&L down to bottom of net income, you can optimize a lot of things there, right? Gas, ceiling, staff, energy, how you depreciate CapEx, what you're paying in interest, and like, there's a lot of room there. And then on the risk side, there's a lot of things to monitor and that you can reduce, like the risk of getting slashed, of like faulting, of not being able to prove a certain capacity. The volatility of crypto cash flows, like how do you think about like that, and just kind of like how exposed are you to one type of business model versus what are opportunities to diversify?
Maybe just to add a bit on this, so this is maybe hard to visualize, but it's not really different from a hotel model. When you go to a Hilton, the Hilton is basically just a brand. They have like guidelines on how to actually like put that real estate to use. But ultimately, who is owning the real estate is like a different entity that just cares about the real estate. Hilton is just putting that real estate to use, and that's not too different from Filecoin. Like you just have some capex, you have some energy that you're paying for, and everything else is not something that you should be doing as a real estate owner. And ultimately, our job in a particular way is to just take capex and connect that with crypto incentives. The first network is Filecoin. We are going to be supporting a bunch of other networks. But basically, that allows you to just extract value from the capex that you have as a real estate owner.
Yeah. So really think of it as two products, right? Like there's the piece that's helping people monetize their hardware, and then there's the staking product, which allows people to participate in that monetization process. And as Vuk rightly pointed out, a lot of the kind of Filecoin lending protocols, as well as the Filecoin SPs, are primarily focused on Filecoin. Web3 Mine can replicate these like efficiencies across a number of other networks that have similar kind of like complexities in terms of like how you actually capture the block rewards. But if you're able to do that, you're actually like not just staking in Filecoin, right? Which is why the company is called Web3 Mine. Cool.
Now, I just since we are all familiar with lending, because that's the like 99% of what we have on the network now, I just want to make sure that we have a understanding of how it differs from staking. So when you have lending, what happens is the tokens are pulled, and then on a particular like basis, then someone can borrow from that pool. In the context of both Glyph and Stake FIL, what's happening is that you need to put down some collateral. That's in the form of collateral locked in the sectors that you have previously onboarded to the network, and then you borrow liquidity, which you can use for whatever you want. You can use that liquidity to steal new sectors. Maybe you want to hedge yourself against like price fluctuations, so you sell that liquidity. But ultimately, you have borrowed, and now you need to pay back the loan on a regular basis because you have some interest rate that you need to pay off. And you could be paying off that interest rate from like the block rewards from the collateral, or you can be injecting capital into that address just to keep paying off that loan. If you're not paying off the loan, what happens is that your collateral is liquidated, and then basically you lose all the liquidity that you had locked in those storage providers. We thought this was not super useful because like ultimately, I mean, it's super useful, but we thought this is a bit riskier than we would like. And the reason for that is that each crypto cycle you have, like most of the providers actually go bankrupt. So lending in that context is very challenging, and like you really need to like pay attention who you're lending to. And this is why like the collateral requirements of all the lending protocols right now is so high, like 50% just to borrow, like just to basically leverage yourself to X is kind of very aggressive. But that's probably the only way to do it because ultimately there is a lot of risk as well. And but on the other hand, this is assuming that the provider is a rational player, meaning that they have everything figured out and that they are going to be able to actually pay off these loans. But what happens in the crypto cycles is that people default not because they want to default. So they default because the crypto winter is so bad that they just don't have another option. And even though they are rational and they put a lot of collateral in, and everything is over-collateralized, that does not mean that those providers are not going to be failing. And this is mainly why we never wanted to do lending, because there is a lot of risk that somehow needs to be managed. And ultimately, if we can't manage that risk, it's also hard for us to be able to allow our friends to stake into our protocol. Well, what staking is basically taking liquidity inside a protocol and then injecting that liquidity in the native protocol. What that means is that you take one FIL and you take that FIL and you need to log that inside the protocol somehow. In the context of Filecoin, the only way to do it is by providing that as collateral, which means that you need to provide the utility, which is the storage. And in order to get to that storage, you need to do a bunch of other things. But you need to be the one controlling how the liquidity gets locked in the protocol. Now, what all those steps are is first pool the liquidity. So you need to have some DeFi side. So that's going to be on the FPM, where you have like pools of liquidity. Then you need to onboard capacity. So you need to seal sectors. And how you seal sectors is not by relying on the SP that is going to seal sectors, because then you are really not the one doing the staking, because you would give the liquidity to the SP and then you're hoping that the SP is going to use that liquidity. But the SP has no, you can't really force the SP to do it. So what the SP could do is basically take liquidity from you and not do anything with that, which means that you have capital inefficiencies and then you can't really guarantee like high yields. Then you need to make sure that that sector that is sealed is actually going to be there for a while. So you want some redundancy on the infrastructure side, so basically on the hard drives, if hard drives fails, and it is expected that they are going to fail like once in a while, you need to have redundancy so that those drives can be changed. And then you need to have redundancy on top of the protocol when you're writing data, and you need to generate the proofs, and there is a bunch of things that you need to do in order just to lock one FIL inside the protocol. And this is ultimately why it took us so long to actually build staking, because like you have to manage the complexity somehow and get to a point where you can actually guarantee that when someone locks a particular unit of liquidity in your protocol, that is going to be deployed. You also want to be sure that if one of these providers in your network is not there anymore, that you have ways of mitigating that risk. So in the context of our network, what we have is we have a...
Sorry, that's the same thing.
We have ways of basically resealing sectors if a particular storage provider goes down. But this is basically the big picture where liquidity comes on one side, then you have a sealing market which is completely decoupled from the storage. So storage providers only do storage. Like, why are we assuming that storage providers want to do computing? The computing that happens on Filecoin is much more than the storage, actually. Filecoin is the biggest compute network in existence by 2 orders of magnitude. But we are a storage network. Actually, the cryptography is like insane. Like it's basically probably like all the snark networks right now out there are like 1,000 times smaller than Filecoin. And Filecoin is basically generating millions of snarks a day, which doesn't happen anywhere. And we pushed all that complexity to the storage provider, hoping that the storage provider would figure it out. And guess what? They are not really figuring it out. And now, like, it's very hard to grow because we are assuming that they are going to do a good job. And if we don't manage that complexity, we are not going to be able to grow like faster than we are today. What that takes is also distilling the compute side. So on the compute side, you don't actually have one thing as a ceiling. You have proof of replication, then you have snark generation, then you have a bunch of other jobs. It's actually 5 jobs that you need to execute in order to seal one sector. And those jobs are very different. So for doing the power-up, you need a bunch of SSDs. And for doing the snarks, you just need the GPU and you need to keep the circuit in memory. And that particular activity is much cheaper because it's just a GPU job, which you can throw to Ethereum miners. But all the power-up stuff is hard. You probably want to either have like Chia miners because they are also using proof of replication, or you want to have people using custom hardware for that particular piece. And if you ask me, the Filecoin miners are great at sealing. They are not great at storage. Storage is a commoditized activity, and if you look at hosting companies, they have figured that out like 20 years ago. Like, why are we assuming that we are going to teach some new people how to do storage? No, they are pretty bad. whenever we would go to the SP, like we are able to like improve their storage by 40-50% in the first couple of days. Then in the first couple of weeks, we are able to like streamline their networking by 3x. Because these guys have never been doing storage on scale. Like, why are we assuming?
Yeah, maybe just like think about what that means, right? You're dropping cost, I think like in the end up to 80%, and you're improving performance substantially. Those gains just go to stakers.
Yeah, and if you think about, so for now we have a program where we reward $1,000 per petabyte a month to storage providers, in fiat, and we went to like a call, like pitching that, and I think it was John, and like 48 people hated us, 2 people came back to us. Then we hired a guy from Chia that is from Big Tech, and he went to his friends he had a dinner with his friends, and he offered $500 for just storage a month, and these guys like gave 60 petabytes and that was closed the same day because that's super lucrative for them, because that's the Web 2 commoditized activity. It's not Filecoin mining. Like, why Filecoin mining is special? No, it's just storage. Like, just store these files, and when I ask you for a random piece ID, give me back the random piece ID, and that's it. And if you don't actually get like to Web 2 and like whoever was doing like all their storage stuff on that, and yeah, like we'll probably have like 5 more layers in the next 5-10 years, because like the complexity is just going to be higher and higher and higher. And I think that's it.
Questions?
Yeah, super interesting presentation. Sounds like you guys have sort of boiled, mining into boiled it down to a perfect science. But I'm trying to understand your business model. Apart from the mining, are you like a consulting outfit where you basically go to different SPs and help them optimize their processes? I didn't really understand that.
Yeah, it's like the hotel business. So if Hilton wants to go into Zurich, they would talk to like local companies that basically own real estate. And in Zurich, for example, you have a bunch of construction companies that just build stuff and they don't actually sell them, they just put them to use somehow. And one option for your building is to have a Hilton hotel there. So similarly, you can have a bunch of drives sitting idle or the entire data center, and you would come to us and be like, oh, what can I do with this hardware? And then, of course, we need to throw a few engineers on it, and like we will get back like that week and be like, okay, you can do Filecoin, you can do like Lightyear, Fluence, whatever. And we would give you like basically a particular number that you can get by extracting value from these crypto networks. Right now, we are trying to limit that complexity so that we are basically leasing all the hardware from these providers rather than giving them the crypto incentives, because we are trying to limit the complexity for them. So if you go to a real estate company, they don't know what crypto is. Like, they care about how much they are getting back, and what they know is actually leasing. They know how to borrow. They want to borrow against that collateral that they have and stuff like that. Those are traditional finance mechanisms that they're very familiar with, because most of the buildings that they have built is not from their balance sheet. It's basically just because they have borrowed a bunch of capital and built those buildings, and then they want to put it to use to pay off like the lease and so on.
I guess there's like different models for like who owns that hotel building, right? You can lease the building, you can own the building, or you can rent the building. I think like we think that like leasing is the best model. There is different models. We're basically trying all of them. We also own one hotel basically just to see how much efficiency you can gain, because if you lease, people will always say the pipes broke, electricity cost is going up. So like we want to know how true that is. So we basically have our hyper efficient like hotel on the side where we know exactly what kind of efficiencies are realistic, and that helps us like determine what are the appropriate leasing and rent fees if we want to pursue those models. So yeah, it just helps us benchmark against ourselves and determine what are the appropriate market rates. And they're much like with the interesting point, right? Like If you pitch this to Filecoin SPs, you get a bunch of question marks. If you write it, as in like ask them, hey, what do you want for your hotel? If you pitch this to people who are owning drives, they'll be like, they know what market rates are. Filecoin SPs don't necessarily do. In our model, just to be very clear, as a hardware operator, you might not know that you're participating in the Filecoin network, right? You just completely out of you just get fiat for drives and energy. That's it. Like everything else, somewhere else.
Yeah, and to answer your question, basically we almost take we had a presentation where like the split was 60-40%. For us, it's more towards 100%. Where like right now maybe we take 10% because like still we depend on block rewards, but the objective is to not depend on block rewards at all and just pass like all the inflation back to the stakers. Yeah. And the way we do it with deals.
Yeah, right. Like if you think about passing on block rewards, what you're really passing on is the inflation of the network. So if you can generate staking yield from other sources that are outside of block rewards, like monetizing the utility by selling storage, you actually are able to create real yield, not just index a staker to the inflation of the network, but generate just real yield on top because you're monetizing utility, because you're attracting capital into the ecosystem that's not been there already, right? So it's not a reshuffling of capital or kind of taking on risk to, try to outrun inflation, but you're actually bringing in real value, which we also pass on to stakers.
I have a few questions, but let me know if we need to move on. So what is the split between Filecoin native storage providers that are joining versus external? And then what are the commonalities? Like what are the commonalities of like all the Filecoin storage providers that are wanting to join versus like external ones? Like anything like that?
Yeah. So we have two sides. We have the compute side and we have the storage side. Honestly, I don't think Filecoin storage providers are storage providers. So like I just talk to like normal businesses that have a bunch of drives. So those are telcos. Those are like businesses that already have that on the on their balance sheets. For compute, actually, that's what Filecoin providers are very good at, because that's a very custom workload that they need to do, which is sealing, and they are very good at optimizing like those workloads, but not too good on the storage side. So, like I would say, maybe it's more than that. It's 80% traditional Web2 companies on the storage side, 20% providers from the Filecoin ecosystem, while of course on the sealing it's 100% from the Filecoin ecosystem.
I think like there's obviously no target for the split, right? The split will be determined by like whoever accepts what we're willing to pay in fiat, and we just have a lot more receptive conversations with people that know market rates for storage versus those who don't.
Can you guys mention just some stats like total storage on boarded or liquidity or whatever?
So maybe the growth of the onboarding. So like we were initially not onboarding too much because we didn't have like enough sealing tech built to actually like streamline it. So we grew like to 100 terabytes a day, like from like 0 in the past like month, and we are likely gonna be on 2 petabytes a day in the next 3 months.
Yeah, and that's it, right? Like that's the performance, but the cost is significantly cheaper than you would otherwise see, right? So we figured out to do this very cheaply. We can do it very cheaply for 100 terabytes, whatever, per day. If we scale this, the cost will continue to drop. Like it's the way we seal scales very well. So if you scale that up to 2.5, our costs will continue to drop. To a point where like sealing is in. We also have like, by the way, like sealing is one component in the like basic B&L, but like we have similar kinds of like efficiencies on snapping, on gas, on staff, on right, like how we think about capex. Everything you can optimize a lot across every line of that P&L.
Yeah. Also, just to compare the model of a traditional SP, so they would seal a sector every 3 years. Instead, we commit capacity first once, and then we just keep snapping. And there is just like, for some reason, they are just like resealing every time, like, which is super stupid, because like what happens when you grow to 1 exabyte? Then you need to seal again 1 exabyte. So like you have like those cycles where you have idle capacity because like you're not really able to seal in advance, and like that just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And by the way, like there's a bunch of tools, right, that help SPs seal faster, onboard data quicker, easier. There's still going to be a lot of churn on the SP side. So optimizing those tools is helpful, but you're still teaching 100 new people how to ride a bicycle every month. We don't need to do that. We just need somebody to have a very good instruction on whatever, how to ride a bicycle, or they can just ride in the whatever buggy on the back, right? So we learn how to ride a bicycle very well, and we can ride it very fast, and everyone can just jump in the buggy on the back versus having to learn it themselves.
Cool, thank you.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Istanbul. My name is Kenji, head of market at the Security Finance. I'm really glad to be here as part of Lab Week, and thanks for joining the DeFi event as well as Security Finance Deep Dive session. Today, I want to briefly introduce ourselves, and I want to show our platform as well as what we can offer with using our platform. And finally, I may invite Masa to the stage to explain what the roadmap will be and 2 big announcements, which include the mainnet launch strategy for us. Here's our team. We are currently 10 of us, including founder and CEO Masa. He's a hybrid guy between the computer science, and also he had an experience of head of market, derivative market in HSBC in the past. And I'm Kenji. I started my career back in 2004 as a Goldman Sachs as an FX forward trader. Since then, I spent 14 years there as a market maker, not only FX, but also interest rate and derivatives. And then I moved to the hedge fund called Capilla, which is one of the biggest fixed income hedge fund. I think it's over $20 billion worth on asset under management. And I engaged for the portfolio management there for 3 years. And during that era, I met with Masa. I got introduced from my best friend, and his passion to bring the yield curve into crypto world. I get inspired with his vision and decided to jump into the secure finance. I started working here in 22 January. Ruben he has experience of a decade in HSBC, creating the trading terminal in HSBC. And he is a UI UX designer who has experience in Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs as well. And Aki, who is a smart contract developer. He used to work in Accenture as well as a Securitize. And one notable thing for him is that he's the earliest adopter of IPFS. He started using and learning from back in 2015. So, his knowledge about Web3 and IPFS is a notable thing. And Timo, as you might know, he's our community lead, and he's a talented guy, not only in communication, but also the language. So he is not only bilingual, but trilingual or quadlingual or whatever, I don't know. So please say hello to him when you find him in your own language, please. And so out of 10 out of 7, including Masa, is a developer, but I'm sorry, I'm not. I'm an expert of financing. So, if you want to have question for more developer side, you can come to Masa or our documentation. Anyways, and let me go to the next slide. So before explaining what we want to deliver, let me explain briefly about the retail, the current banking system business model. So the TradFi banking face two markets. One is retail market, the other is interbank market. And their business model, the most profitable, how do they make money is a retail model with a big bid and offer spread. Let's say the easiest example I come up with is that when you fly into the Istanbul, you try to exchange your currency into Turkish lira, and you get shocked with high margin, like a 5% to 7%, right? And that is the profit source for the traditional banking system, and that's let's say 5% different from TradingView or Bloomberg or whatever you notice, and you get shocked again when you fly back to your country, because when you buy it, you paid 7%. Again, you try to sell the lira back in your currency, you get charged another 7%, right? That's how they make money. On the other hand, they have another market called interbank, which is very limited during the banking system. And only like a small big tech company or big corporation can reach into this interbank market. And the rate you see on Bloomberg Terminal or TradingView is the rate of interbank market. And this is the example of FX, but same happening in the rate market as well. For example, you deposit your money into the bank A, you earn 3%. And banks, what they do is aggregate all the deposit and invest to somewhere else, or lend out to the corporation by like 7% or 10% to make a spread. Or lend out the money to someone for the mortgage loan anyways. And on the other hand, they also have interbank market for the interest rate as well, which is the bond trading market. They have access for the both, and so that they can hedge through the interbank. The interbank market is OTC market. So bank against bank trade each other with one rate. There's no spread. Peer-to-peer, so the same rate. The lender and borrower agree at the same rate. That's what's happening in the interbank. And that is what secure finance is trying to achieve in DeFi. Okay, next slide, please. I want to touch upon a little bit of a DeFi landscape currently. So the pool system, many staking project or even like spot, the many projects rely on the pool, which is one of the best invention we have in DeFi space. However, it's very similar to banking business model. What do I mean by that? The pool has own business model as well as their own formulaic and their own size of the pool and utilization ratio, so that each individual pool has a showing different rate, not only the borrowing but lending as well. Why? Because that's the model, right? And there's a limitation. And what we want to provide is between those pools, we can provide OTC transparent rate market creation, so that someone can be the arbitrager or even pool to pool can connect each other. That's what we're trying to achieve. Next slide, please. So our mission: democratization, innovation, and education. So, what we want to do is evolutionizing finance to grow together. And democratization, meaning that, now interbank market is limited to the banking system or the limited big company, which we want to open for every one of us to democratize the finance. How? With the innovation. We want to make it happen with our smart contract full on-chain order book OTC market in zero coupon bond market. And finally, we focus on education. If you join for the PL Summit, Juan was mentioned about his link to the R&D, which eventually expand. I mean, knowledge expansion will bring the innovation eventually to, grow entire ecosystem bigger. So we spend our time, we spend our resource to educate entire ecosystem, which is our one mission. So now I think you might understand what we are trying to achieve. It's a yield curve. Yield curve is basically the plot between the yield for the time series. And without this component, no financial instrument can happen. Like derivatives or whatever, even option structure, we need this yield curve to start with. So, however, now we only have the dot between the pool, and there's no composable interest rate. So that is a problem. And this is what we want to solve. And how do we want to make the yield curve is leveraging the zero coupon bond market. Zero coupon bond is commonly used in TradFi financial trading place, but there are no coupon payment during the lifetime, but you can buy and trade with a deep discount. So let's say when it's get maturity, you will receive the face value, but you can buy it cheaper. And eventually, you will get the difference between when you buy and the face value will be your profit. So for example of this, for 365 days, 1 year, if you buy on our platform, the zero coupon bond will mature at 100. And during the lifetime, you are able to trade from 0 to 100. That's 100 is a hard limit for the price. And at the maturity comes, you can redeemable at the 100. So if you buy 80 and maturity, date to maturity is 365 days, how much is the APR? You will earn 20 against initial investment of 80, right? So one quarter, 20 divided by 80 will be your yield, APR. Go next slide, please. 1 year rough calculation, it will be 25%. And if the maturity is half, of course, you earn much bigger within the short period of time. So if the maturity is half, your yield will be double. And if the maturity is 1 quarter, let's say 3 months, it's 4 times bigger in terms of APR. That's how the zero coupon bond works. And we are making the zero coupon bond marketplace on our platform. And next slide, please. And what you can do with the yield curve we offer. First of all, cash flow management. Needless to say for you guys, but if you are new SPs, the choice to pledge collateral for Filecoin is to buy or borrow. And you can use a platform with a fixed tenor, fixed maturity, with fixed interest rate. And if you are the existing SPs, you might be able to reduce your cost against the existing, borrowing against someone else. It could be the pool, it could be the centralized solution. With or even you are borrowing with variable rate, you can fix your cash flow through our zero coupon bond market. Next slide, please. And the other thing, this is not, this is an example of USDC, I guess, but the yield spread with leveraging. The tenor spread, this is what I have done when I was in Goldman or even the hedge fund era. Time to time, the market moves a lot and yield curve shows the weird shape. So that we just take the other side of the peak and the bottom and try to make a spread between the two interest rates. Let's say if you see on our platform the 2-year USDC, you can lend out with 7%, while you can borrow 1 year with a 5%. You just do the spread between the two tenors to make the 2% difference for the annualized APR, which is good in terms of capital efficiency because you borrow one hand and lend one hand, which you can allow because on our platform, we receive the zero coupon bond. When you lend out, which means you buy the zero coupon bond, and we accept this zero coupon bond as a collateral if it's the same currency, so that you can use this zero coupon bond to borrow the same currency. But this is profitable only if there shows a weird spread between the two tenors. Okay, next slide, please, I guess. Yeah, and what you can do is leverage looping again and again. So if you borrow, if you start lending the USDC, let's say some money, and then borrow meaning that you get the cash on your hand again so that you can invest again, right? And then after lending out, you will get the zero coupon bond again so that you can use this zero coupon bond as collateral to borrow again. So you can loop and loop and loop. But there is a haircut by 20%, so you cannot do forever anyways. But yeah, our system allows the leverage system. And next slide, please. Okay, let me skip it. I actually explained already. Okay, and finally, this is a bit complicated, but what you can do is cross-currency carry trade. If you have trade the margin FX transaction, you might know the swap point. Let's say like Aussie against JPY. If you are long high yield currency, your cost of transaction is getting better and better day by day because of the yield spread. And what I am offering is pretty similar to that. So first of all, if you have like collateral like WBTC, which you don't want to sell, and meanwhile you're bullish on Filecoin, what you can do from using our platform. So pledge WBTC as a collateral and borrow USDC and get the cash. And you may go to the Uniswap to exchange from one currency to the other. Now we might use wrapped Filecoin. So let's say that wrapped Filecoin. And you come back to our platform and lend out the FIL. And if the 1 year USDC borrowing rate is 5%, while 1 year rate for the lending rate for the FIL is 12%, you earn the 7% yield difference with the carry for 1 year time. This has a risk of a spot. If the Filecoin price drops more than 7%, you might expose the loss. But what happens if Filecoin goes higher by 10%? you will earn income gain and capital gain, total like 17%. That's how carry trade works on our platform. Okay, next slide, please. I already explained this one as well. Now, is Masa around?
So hello, I'm founder of Secure Finance. Basically, we are democratizing finance, and Secure Finance is not just one DeFi. It's part of the finance history. What we provide and how we different with other DeFi projects is we are making fixed rate products. And fixed rate, what it enables is basically we can introduce time value of money into crypto. So at this moment, a lot of DeFi projects creating some pools and then, lending, that's great. And then they can offer different kinds of interest rates, but it's variable rates, right? There's no guarantee in the future. We'll bring more precise accuracy of the future prediction so that we can provide a hedging solution and a forward market and derivatives market, which is massive, massive potential. In this way, we can attract traditional capital and bring into a Filecoin ecosystem and a crypto ecosystem. This is very, very important. So if we have this fixed rate, it's a guarantee of the future, right? And then people so much care about the percentage of a yield, right? So I'm very much like a sensitive to this interest rate level, right? Like if the rate changes like 0.1% and then 0.5%, it is massive, right? Nowadays, people don't really care about what's 16%, 20%. It's just lucky if it's borrowed, it's cheap, but it's in traditional money, it's a massive, right? So it's okay to borrow, the $10 million, $100 million size, but the Kenji's one-shot deal is like a $300 million. It's super massive, and they really care about the interest rate. So I want to attract the real, whale and bring this capital into this crypto economy. And in order to do this, the fixed rate is very, very important. It's very hard, and no one can do that. Even Uniswap, Aave, Compound, they all fail to make this market, even though they have a lot of cash, a lot of smart people, but it's so hard. Just because there's a lot of market dynamics has to be deployed in a smart contract. That's so hard. That's why I spent a lot of time and I hired Kenji, expert trader. The reason why Kenji is here is basically borrowing this expert trading experience and then decode into the smart contract and infrastructure so that we can onboard a lot of people to our system. So we are more like a base layer of capital markets. So I'm so happy to announce that we're going to launch on mainnet December 15th. What it starts with is global itayose. Basically, we invite all members, all people to place the order. What is your comfortable interest rate level to borrow? What is your interest rate that you want to earn from the fixed term? 3 months yield, 1 year yield, 2 year yield. These should be different, right? So you can post any of the price. And what's the beauty of the open order book system is basically it can gather all people's desire and then find out what is the best rate at this moment, borrow or lend. And this could become the public interest rate. It's a benchmark interest rate. That's how we can provide you, easy access, and there's no negotiation after finding the price. So this is a global itayose, and it will take 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks later, we actually start opening at the bond market. So you can buy or sell. There's no permissionless. We want to achieve financial inclusion. So anyone, without negotiation, can just come to the platform and just, we need collateral, but by collateralizing, you can basically borrow or lend or leverage and a cross currency, and all of these traditional trading strategies can be applied here. And you can invite and a transparency, and then translate it into the finance. It's becoming this secured finance. So from my point of view, from the higher abstraction layer, there's not much difference between like a Web3 infrastructure and the finance project. So so I'm so happy to see, it's next to TCP/IP, mastering TCP/IP textbook. So it's considered to be, the great protocol in Japan. So I'm so happy to share this fact. And thank you very much. And please come to our platform on December 15th. Thank you very much. Some questions?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great presentation. Thanks for kind of going end to end. Can you touch a little bit on
Sure.
how you think the ERC20 token,
Yeah.
the role that would play in the platform?
Yeah, so ERC20 token it's a great standard, so everyone can take, and then deploy. And we are dealing, we use a wrapped Filecoin and wrapped Bitcoin. Everything is in ERC20 base. The reason why is if it's ERC20 base, it allows interoperability with external smart contract. So we are fully on-chain, decentralized protocol. This means there's no off-chain part. So this means anyone can build the second layer or the aggregator project and then just move our product, connect different kind of different project. You can even connect with Uniswap or Compound and make something like a structured products. And that is possible. So by having ERC20 tokens, I think this has a lot of flexibility, and we want to add on to more stablecoin business. I know it's 2025, the Basel III, the rule will be updated. So a lot of more like a stablecoin business and TradFi and banks will issue the ERC20 based, US dollar, Japanese yen, the euro. So we want to have this yield curve as well. In this way, we can have US dollar curve and a JPY curve, a euro curve, and a euro dollar and a euro yen, dollar yen is a very, very popular currency pair. In this way, we can provide a more advanced, forward product, FX products onto our platform. So it's a massive scale by choosing the ERC20.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Quick question for me. Do you think that the rates on the wrapped representation of tokens will differ greatly from the rates of the actual token itself?
This is called basis risks, but I think in the beginning it's kind of like ignorable because as long as it's like wrapping is insured, it's a one-to-one relationship, it's guaranteed, then not much of the interest difference. Yeah. So wrapped coins is basically, you have a US dollar into Hong Kong, Shanghai Bank. It's outside of the US, but you can have the same interest rates because it's guaranteed as a US dollar. So same idea. Yeah. Hi,
I wonder if storage provider works already with some protocol and he wants to exit this protocol. Can you provide liquidity to them to exit the protocol and to go to another protocol, maybe
yes,
with a better percentage rate?
Yeah, this is our vision. We want to be infrastructure for the many liquidity projects, yes. And who can play this this game is basically you can show a different kind of interest rate, and then we are also showing we are basically matchmaking, and then the arbitrager is a key player. Arbitrager always take a look at okay, this is cheaper, this is higher. Okay, I buy this, I just sell. And this way we can averaging the all markets. So in this way we can grow together, and then the more ensuring more liquidity. So I think in the if you have you're running a project by your own and nobody else, it's really hard to ensure the liquidity. But if you are grow as an industry level, you can exchange liquidity each other, right? So each project had their own strengths, and so maybe I think it's really important to think about the collaborative approach and how you can utilize it. This is actually what's happening in interbank, right? And bank A, oh, I need money now. And bank B, okay, I can lend out, right? This is kind of like the cooperative approach to ensure the liquidity in the finance market. Okay. Yes.
The capital market is a highly regulated sector, right?
Yeah.
And I think we're talking about cross-border transactions as well, right?
Yeah, true.
How are you going to capture that in, or would it attract future
Yeah, so it's cross-border nature, and the regulatory issue is also a very big topic. And our network is basically we consider this market as a euro currency market. Euro currency market is not the currency of euro; it's basically offshore currency. So our protocol is operated by the Cayman Foundation, and also. So think about it. If you have a US dollar and then bring outside of the US, and what's happening outside of the US, you can just lend out the US dollar outside of the US, no regulation. This is a choice of the interbank. So even like a JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, they're using the offshore entity to lend out the US dollar outside of US. This is called offshore market. And that's the reason why it's the most effective. And they're going to use like mathematical formula model, because if humans is interrupted and then some like a political thing can effect to the interest rates, which is not efficient, right? We need more like a base layer, right? We want to cancel out all the human thing. We want to just purely grab the pure value of the currency or of the interest rate. This is how we build the offshore market. And then after this, we can bring this market into onshore so that we can distribute our product or interest rate to the local retail people via regulated entity. So we're happy with working with regulated, licensed, and onshore entity. So it's more like important to have the coordination between onshore entity and offshore entity. So that's how we can clear the regulatory issues. Yes.
So this is some pretty complex stuff, right? You're
Sure.
like very much in the weeds. I'm curious, one, who is your target audience? Because I know that you mentioned you like really wanted to open this up to make it possible for anybody to do
Financial inclusion, yeah.
Exactly. But I'm curious, like, are you targeting a specific segment?
Yeah.
And then secondly, what efforts do you guys have in terms of general market education that you are really working on pushing?
Yeah. So, we want to cover all the users, but I think the initial user would be, of course, Filecoin storage provider, but also high net worth individual or like a hedge funds, because they're chasing for a new alpha and new like a profit source. So cryptocurrency is very interesting nature, right? There's a low correlation with the thing. So those are the initial target, and they're looking for the kind of like a native market. They want to have a direct access to the interbank market, which is not possible at this moment, right? Interbank market is a very closed network, and then they are basically they only talk to the bank or brokers, and then they charge a lot of fees, right? They don't want to pay, and they just want to go to the direct market. So that's why we can, I think we can reduce the friction, or we can ensure the high liquidity. But it comes with a lot of education and experience, because those kind of interbank grade market is like a major league, right? you're so afraid of getting into the major league to play baseball. So you want to have a proper education. And that's why we provide test pilot program, V1, V2, V3, so that you can go through all the necessary education. And also at V3, we educate people to experience the extreme situation. Okay, if the market collapses, if something happens, if nuclear war happens, what's going to happen, right? People are so afraid of something happens. So okay, let's assume something critical thing happen, and what's going to happen, right? We experience all this. It's like a fire drill. And then, okay, so we stop the market, and then everyone has a present value, right? We can cancel out all, and then we can flatten all the position, and then we can restart from the global retail set. By having this like a special like education and training, you have the confidence to start new and then start taking new position and then get into this thing. So I think education is really the key. So it's not the all. So we keep educating, and we are incentivize salespeople who is good at like a narrative and token to the like storage providers, right? So we would incentivize that marketing people or salespeople to tell and create a solution to the retail people. So in this way, we can, I think, bring more liquidity instead of just asking everyone to touch directly to the market. So it's kind of like a replication of what's happening in a TradFi situation. It's always like a trading team and a sales team. So we want to replicate this like a whole ecosystem in our secure finance network. Thank you. Any question? All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Our core team has been working in the Filecoin ecosystem for around more than 5 years. Previously, we are doing like infrastructures, wallets, etc. And we have been doing Filecoin lending for more than 3 years by now. And before FVM, we have a HashMix FIL lending platform with a maximum TVL of around $100 million and helped over 40 storage providers. And now with FVM, we launched our decentralized version. And I would like to go through our protocol as from the aspect of a storage provider and also a FIL holder. Firstly, for storage providers, you can just stake the beneficiary of the node into our smart contract, and then you can borrow FIL. There are two ways for you to use the FIL. If you want to withdraw the FIL like all at once, actually it's our protocol is over collateral, so you can get like around 40% of the total amount of your original node. And if you want to use the FIL to sell the node you pledged, you can get around 60% of the original node. We have our innovative evaluation model, which used to evaluate how much FIL the node can get. And also, actually, it's very user-friendly. We support like flexible repayment plans for SPs. You can choose whatever percentage you prefer when you repay the loans. And also for redeem your node, the beneficiary address of the node is very easy, just with one click. And for FIL holders, one more thing. I believe the current borrowing APR is around 15% now on our platform. And for FIL holders, currently the staking APR is around 10% to 17% because it's a dynamic rate based on the utilization rate of the pool. And for FIL holders, stake your FIL onto HashMix, and besides for the safety of our protocol, actually, I believe every protocol here has done is like fully audited our contract, and also with lots of experienced team members, and because we are over collateralized, so it's much more secured for FIL holders. And as for the liquidity part, we are the maximum utilization rate of our pool is around like 90%, and the extra 10% of the token from the pool is used for liquidity. So it's less likely to to get the redemption pressure. So yeah, and in the near future, because now SushiSwap has supported FVM already, and already have some liquidity there, and we are likely to add our own liquidity, our CW token, CW FIL, which is our liquidity token, and on Sushi Swap soon. And in the near future, we will planning to have our own governance token to help incentive our SPs and FIL holders and like kind of govern our protocol much more better. Yeah, that's basically it. Thank you. Sure.
Oh, I'm curious, what's like the roadmap or timing to get the token onto SushiSwap, and do you think you'll do it on Uniswap as well?
Yes, yes. In the future, when Uniswap, I believe they are not supported yet, but they already have the proposal on this. Yeah. And once they support, we will do that as well. For the roadmap on SushiSwap, I think it will be Q1 next year. Q1. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, Ailsa, I was wondering if you could just talk about how long you guys have been involved in the Filecoin ecosystem for, because you're probably one of the first staking solutions pre-FEM, and how you've used those lessons to really build the FEM version of your staking solution.
Sorry?
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could talk about all of the experience that you all have had building the first version of HashMix.
Oh, actually, I'm quite new to the team. I'm the newest one. Yeah, and but yeah, I heard that because the founder of HashMix is a technical guy, and who leads to do the Fox wallet, if you guys know that. And after that, he believes that there's some gaps between FIL holders and SPs, because SPs needs FIL to sell their nodes, but they don't know where to get the FILs. So he came out that maybe it's a good solution for the ecosystem. So he started HashMix FIL lending, which is a centralized version for sure, because at that time there's no FVM. So at that time, I believe most of the SPs and FIL holders, he just kind of connect in person. And yeah, in the team, most of the guys are technical guys. So that's why I'm here alone, because they are kind of staying with computer all the time. And yeah, and once FVM launched, we did our DeFi version, and maybe it's because we are not that good at how to say, marketing or whatever. So we are not growing that fast, but we are trying our best to do that at the moment. Yeah. Oh, and our evaluation model, which has been used since HashMix FIL lending, it's very safe and proven to be very, very safe, because we use that for 3 years, and it's always worth traffic. Yeah. Thank you.
Just one question. Is the model public, the evaluation model?
Good question. Actually, that's not. Yeah, but other part of the how to say, the technical things are open sourced. Yeah.
Gotcha. And you all just received a security audit recently, right?
Yep.
I was wondering if you could maybe share a little bit more about that, since those are public.
Yeah, we did the security audit with Certic, and the how to say, the score is quite good, but I don't really know much detail about this. Sorry, but I will share the link of the audit later. Yeah.